Welcome everyone. My name is Kata Spechala. I'm your host for today, and I'm a co-founder of Human Future Hub, a social startup that we just founded this year in Berlin. And I'm very happy to welcome you in our first online session, our discussion panel about AI in education. We actually titled this panel, Does the AI Have Place in the Classroom? So we will try to answer that question today and go through many aspects of that very important topic. And maybe some organizational information at the beginning. So we are recording the session, and everybody participating, if you don't want to show your face or your name, it's absolutely fine. So also take care of your own privacy, and but we of course encourage you to show up and ask questions at the end, as we will have a Q&A. And yes, the recording will be also shared after the session with everyone who registered. And also, if you know someone who would be interested in seeing it, then let us know. We are happy to share this recording also further. And now I'm gonna start introducing our lovely panelists for today. We will go to our plan for today. Yes, we have some points, but at first let's meet the main, let's say, people who are going to speak today and bring their knowledge and experience. So I'm gonna start with Laura. Go ahead, Laura, and tell us a few words about yourself and your background.
Hi, my name is Laura. I'm currently in Rome, but I used to be a teacher in a private university in Venezuela, and I just finished my master in technological education and digital abilities online.
Thank you. Marta, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Marta, and I live and work as a teacher in a secondary high school in Bologna. So my students are from 14 years old to 19 years old.
Thank you. Samarth, now your turn.
Yep. Hi, everyone. My name is Samarth. I'm based here in Berlin. I've worked as a product manager in the field of AI since past few years. And yeah, looking forward to share my experience with you all today. So yeah, thanks for joining.
Thank you, Samarth. And last but not least, we have also Dario here. Dario is a co-founder of Human Future Hub and also has extensive experience in education. Go ahead and tell us about yourself.
Thanks, Kata. So as you were mentioning, I have some experience in education because I was a teacher myself. Then I also started an NGO about education in Italy. And fast forward 10 years after, I worked the last 2 years for AI in higher education at a big private university here in Berlin, where I am now. Back to you.
Thank you very much. So our plan for today is, as you can see, of course, the welcome and introduction. That's what we're doing here now. Then Dario will set the stage with a few facts about the AI developments in education currently and how we will look at some examples in the world, how different educational institutions are using AI and what comes out of it. And then we will have a deep dive into teaching in a physical classroom with Marta. After that, we will have a deep dive into a virtual classroom with Laura. And we finish with teaching without the classroom, where Samarth will bring this topic closer to us. And after that, there will be time for questions. So I'm very also excited to hear your questions. Or also we have some questions that we gathered before through our type form. So thank you also for submitting your questions beforehand. All right. So now the next slide is a brief introduction of Human Future Hub. What are we doing? Who we are? So I mentioned at the very beginning we are a social enterprise. We are designed to help humans navigate this very fast changing world of AI landscape. Our world is really impacted by AI, and our focus is examining AI and society in a broad sense. And that's why education is part of it. We look also into topics like recruiting or human role in the AI world. And we mostly, you know us from building a community, and now we decided to call it Community of Humans that empowers itself. So where we create awareness, we exchange our experiences, expertise, and we do that by meetups. Mostly we did so far meetups in person, and this is our first online kind of meetup session / panel, where we really will be facilitating this kind of exchange of our experiences and connecting expert view with the community view, just on everyday stories in our lives. And in the future, we also want to generate value by guiding organizations and groups, and of course also individuals, by understanding AI potential, but at the same time to favor the responsible use of AI. And that's what we are striving for. So in a nutshell, our mission is to empower humans to thrive in the AI era. And as I said, we are aiming to raise awareness, provide education and guidance. And we're really proud of our vision that we actually had from the beginning, but we nailed it. And literally last week, humans together, nobody's left behind. Something that is always, you can always see in our documents, in our sessions, in our communication. So we're really happy to have that lovely vision. And with that, I'm kicking off the session. So I'm now going to pass on to Dario to set the stage for the topic.
Thank you, Kata. So, what's happening in this Gen AI era? Here, obviously, we want to start with the simple definition that is generative AI instead of generic AI. Generic AI is a very broad term. Here, we're talking about generative AI that is commonly known as chatbots like OpenAI, ChatGPT, Gemini, and so on. And we're talking specifically about this and how this is going to impact society. And in today's session, we're talking specifically in education. So first of all, a quick mention of the velocity of change, because all the other revolutions that we saw in human history were different. And the first thing that comes into mind is speed, the velocity of change. Industrial revolution took 100 years. The internet to take all the world practically 20 years. And now in just 3 years, large language models, ChatGPT and other, and the chatbots in general are really changing the world. What changes this for education? The first thing that comes to mind and that we studied in the last few years at university is that hyper-personalization is finally available. And this means that one-on-one tutoring with students. And this, without going into technical terms that I wrote into the presentation, gives a much better learning performance. Here it says 2 standard deviations. It means that it's much better for who is not math savvy. What's happening in the world? Just as an overall trend in the economic field, the EduTech market is already estimated at 200 billion, and is estimated to grow to 600 billion in 5 years. And this means that the economy saw what's happening and is going all in EduTech. And we're talking about the big tech firms like Google, Microsoft, and all the others. At this point, at this stage, mostly AI is focused on optimization and efficiency, especially in the primary and secondary schools. And as real-world implementation, the important thing is that now we are seeing AI teachers. We are seeing AI chatbots that are teaching. And one first thing that comes into mind is that these are experiments, because we don't have any old literature on this. And these experiments are doing on real humans. So we are testing on humans what's going to happen. I'm providing some simple example to keep it very concrete and grounded. And we have, for example, a college in UK where we have a teacherless classroom, in which the AI courses are replacing human with teachers, fully replacing it. The learning coaches are just there to monitor behavior. So it's a school without teachers, and it's in UK. It's not in somewhere else in the world. Another example is in Texas, this Alpha School that I don't know if you read any news about this, but it's also pushing a lot because their teachers are not teaching. Teachers are just helping students learn with AI. And they claim that their students are learning twice as fast directly only with AI. And this also is another controversial topic. I will suggest to go in further investigations because many things are happening in this. I'm not going to mention their details, and I'm leaving this for research. Final example is in South Korea. What's happening? They wanted to substitute the normal textbooks with AI-powered digital textbooks, and they wanted to do it for the whole country. This didn't happen because they received a massive backlash, and also in the parliament they were stopped. So they just kept this AI-powered digital textbook as a side note, so as supplementary materials. But this is just to show that these things are already happening now. This is not the future, this is the present. Finally, just to mention some of the arising issues, because there are many, but just to mention some of the most important ones in education. One thing that is already happening is that students are obviously cheating through chatbots. And on the other side, what's happening from the school perspective? From the school perspective, there are some tools that trying to understand if any essay, any work submitted by a student was AI or not. There is a main problem on this because these AI detection tools are failing, not too much, a little bit, maybe 1%, 2%. They have these kind of false positives, but considering big numbers, 1-2% of false positives is a problem. Another problem from the student side is the emotional dependency. If students stay too much in educating themselves with an AI, if they talk too much with an AI, in the long term, they are socializing less with humans. This because these tools are built to create engagement and ultimately dependency. And finally, another problem with the chatbots is the yes man problem, in technical terms called the sycophancy. And this is as simple as the chatbots, they want to engage the users. They want the users to stay there with them. And so they are agreeable, as simple as that. Agreeable means that even if you have a horrible idea, the AI is never going to tell you that it's a horrible idea. It's going to tell you interesting, or what a nice new perspective, without saying you that is really, really bad. And this already led to some AI psychosis and many really serious problems. And for me, for this introduction, that's it. So back to you, Kata. Thank you very much.
Yes, unmute. Thanks, Dario, for setting the stage, giving us some quite disturbing and at the same time incredible insights. So let's go to the next part. The next part is about teaching in a physical classroom. And here Marta is going to explain to us how AI is impacting the physical classroom nowadays.
Yes, thank you, Kata. Yes, I'm going to share briefly my experience as a teacher in a physical classroom. So since AI has been around for a few years now, as teachers, and I'm talking about the school I work in, but I think we can assume this is happening everywhere. We have been sort of pushed into attending training courses on AI, so to get new expertise and knowledge for our job. And the first pro that probably came to our mind was the possibility of personalization, especially for students with special needs, because of course, the idea of setting and creating personalized study plans could actually help us in finding new way and to teach, and also innovative methods to apply new strategies, basically. But what we saw is that the main problem with these training courses is that they are somehow too theoretical, and this left us with somehow the burden of self-research, both on AI and on tools that we could use during our lessons to make them more interesting, entertaining, and engaging. But it actually left us very little time to focus on our own ideas and maybe developing them. So the truth is that basically we use AI tools just to review homework, and maybe in some cases to review tests too. But we normally suggest, for example, to our students to use AI tools in order to self-check their knowledge and also their understanding of a certain topic. In a way, we save time in the classroom, and they also might get an immediate feedback without probably feeling judged by the teacher and the classmates. And just as Dario was mentioning before, as a side note, we have witnessed how ChatGPT, for example, gives very kind and positive feedbacks, whereas maybe somehow we are too stressed out and not everyone is willing to explain things over and over again. And maybe the students might feel, I don't know, that maybe less pressure on them. And also small achievements give them a very deep sense of pride. So, but this is something that we should think about, we as teachers. And anyway, we are currently using, for example, Gemini-powered tools on Google Classroom, so that each student might have, for example, a study buddy. And once we assign them a task, they can ask for extra exercises or quizzes just to check if what they're doing is clear or if they need more help. And in the second slide, actually, we put something connected to how the students are actually using AI tools, because the truth is that our students don't use, in most of the cases, they don't use chatbots or tools to find, for example, their own study method or to revise topics, but they use them just as a way to save time so they can get back to what they really want to do as fast as possible. And also by checking homework in the classroom, we saw how they have issues in writing the correct prompts. But of course, this has something to do with literacy, which is getting lower and lower in teenagers. And so we have to teach and train them into writing correct prompts. But sometimes we can't do that as well. So basically, this make all the process pointless somehow if we can't help them in doing that. And so the truth is that in this context, AI is not actually making the access to a high level of education more democratic or easier, but it's widening the gap, already existing gap between good students and bad students, or at least students who are interested in learning and students who are not interested. And of course, connected to this, we should also consider the real access that students have to both the internet connection and also up-to-date devices, which should not be taken for granted, because it's something that we learned during COVID, for example. And as the last point, I just want to mention something that came up during our last school meeting. And we have noticed how students are widely using the chatbots to replace teachers, friends, relatives, and in some case, psychologists too. So they'd rather chat to chatbots instead of asking for help in school or at home. And I think that this is something we should be really concerned about. And in the last slide, I underlined something that is more connected to me. So the way I use AI, I can actually see the bright side of AI when, especially when bureaucracy is concerned, because I would gladly use AI tools just to save time in filling documents, for example, so that I could concentrate more on my lesson plans and maybe also revising or maybe finding new and more entertaining authors or topics I want to discuss on with my students. And in this case, sometimes I also ask ChatGPT, for example, some suggestions. And I personally use it especially for repetitive tasks. So, for example, to create new batches of tests or exercises. But I also ask for help when I want to find new ways of evaluating my students with more cooperative methods, for example. What I don't do at all is the evaluation process through AI, because I tried it once and I know that some of my colleagues actually they are training AI in order to evaluate the tests. But I saw that it takes me longer to do it this way. I tried it once, and maybe because of hallucinations, I had to revise, to double check every test. So actually, it would have been faster if I had done it on my own from the beginning. And the second reason is that I'm really concerned with the ethical side of the process. On one hand, I don't like the idea of chatbot learning thanks to what my students are producing or writing. And on the other hand, I know my students, so I know if they are troubled, I know their weaknesses. And so I think that I learned through the years how to evaluate them on the whole, taking into account everything I need to know about them. So that's it. Back to you, Kata, and thanks.
Thank you, Marta, for this in-depth situation picture of how does AI impact the schools already. So let's go to the next part. The next one is teaching the virtual classroom, and here Laura will tell us more about her research and her experiences.
Well, in this case, I will present like a couple of examples. One, teaching in the university when we use blended classroom was 10 years ago, when we use like part technological, all in submersion even in the laboratory, and the other part of the class was completely analog. And a new example where I designed a virtual classroom for a whole trimester with young students in high school. So the main point of this is like when introduced technology in the classroom, not only has to have a purpose, but it needs to make a difference. It's not changing the traditional classroom to a new version, is engaging with the students and make them aware that is a new environment, which needs a new set of skills. For example, they don't search the same way they used to, they don't write the same way, and don't engage in the same way. For example, we used to go to the library for searching, they do it all online. When we write, we used to do it by hand, they do it with other programs that'll help them, and maybe they tell them even when they're making a mistake, or even suggest examples, or even the engagement. We used to have like a different connection with how we engage in classes, because we don't have other ways to participate, or in a forum like right now, it was all on-in presentation in class when you have to raise your hand, participate, give your point of view, and so on. So what this suggests is that we have to take in consideration the new skills that our students are developing with like the traditional way that we teach, and be aware that it's not a lack of creativity or skill, it's just a new set that we have to consider. And with this being said, we also have to consider the other side, that is the isolation or the cyberbullying when we are engaging in virtual environments, because is something that is happening daily. They are not as focused on human connections as we had before, because we have, as Dario and Marta mentioned before, like a tendency to use this because they're more friendly or they're more compliant. So it's a different way to approach, and we have to make very clear that it is like a tool, is not like a person itself, that it will help us to make the virtual environment different. So we have to consider that in these spaces, like writing in caps, writing with multiple exclamation points, or even emojis, are different way to communicate that we do in a daily life. And our students are not sometimes aware of that, because they're not used to understand that, like, the digital world and the other world, like maybe more professional letters, or even in a day-to-day, it doesn't have the same like language, if we want to call it in one way. So nowadays we have to consider that the classroom is a different environment when it's virtual and when it's live, and also to consider that we have like different options like Google Classroom, Blackboard, Canvas, and so on. So for them, it's sometimes different to participate in different environments because they're different to them, they're new. So on the next slide, we're going to present something that is like, why are we switching to this new way to teaching? Like, we have to consider that as a teachers, we need like a minimum set of skills, and it's not something new. From the early 2000s, the UNESCO wants to promote the digital literacy in teachers, because there was a gap between what we know and what we are sharing with the students regarding how these technological skills will impact in the daily classroom. Also, the possible discrimination and difference between not only teachers and students, but teachers themselves. And also to consider that, like any other part of life, it has to be a lifelong learning process. It cannot stop like, okay, I learned the new app or the new environment or the new so on. It has to be something that it has to evolve with time, because otherwise we'll be always talking a different language that our students will be speaking. And with this being said, it's something that we also have to teach our students. Like everything is evolving. Also, the way that we speak and communicate in those environments are different. Like, we have to set rules, like common ground in how we are going to interact on these spaces, and also having in consideration that AI is like not the enemy, but we have to teach them, because it's something that is new for all of us. So if we don't set the tone, they won't understand how we'll be able to interact in these spaces. So it has to start from the teachers, and then we can move it to the classroom. On the next slide, I would like present like how we impact with a virtual classroom. So what happened is, like, in this example, we designed a whole trimester in a digital way. So what happened was, like, the students were very, very unaware of how everything was going to be presented. So because we didn't want them to have afraid to this new technology or feel that it was only something online, we created a series of activities that were leading like gradually to this flipped. So we introduced a flipped classroom that was like a new way to engage with learning process. So the student was the main character on the learning process, and the teacher was only to support him. So that way we were hoping that they didn't have to go through a ChatGPT to ask for help, because the idea was that everything was designed in a way that he would feel that he was not always alone, but he was in charge of his learning process. And what we find out when we were doing this, and was something that was not considered, is that accessibility and equity was not the same for all the students, not only for devices, not only for the skills to like interact with technology was also because it was cultural difference between their families and other teachers regarding how we approach technology. Because for some teachers, diving into a virtual classroom was something that was taking space from them as like mentors, and they didn't feel totally comfortable. So it was like an important switch that we didn't anticipate and that we have to learn on the daily basis. Like, we were not here to make AI something that was against teacher, but that was helpful for them. Back to you, Kat.
Thank you, Laura. I really think it's so important that we also have these aspects of that are so close to human nature, like the culture, or the accessibility, or even the aspect of communication, style of communication. I'm really inspired by this part, how impacting it is. Thank you. So now we can go to the last part that is about teaching without a classroom. And here Samarth will provide a deep dive into the product that he was working on.
Yeah, thanks, Kata. And once again, good evening, everyone. Today I want to share my experience regarding working in a German university where we use generative AI to empower our students to not only learn faster, but better as well. Yeah, so to first set the context, so this was Europe's largest private university, and it offers a large catalog of distance learning courses to the students. And when it comes to students, so majority of the students were already working professionals. So that means they need freedom to schedule their learning time according to their work schedule. And that's where we have this AI-based personalized learning assistance. So next slide, please. Yeah. So in this slide, you can see how a learning journey for a student looks like in this learning assistant. So student can access this assistant in their learning portal. So if they go on their courses, they'll see a bubble where if they click on it, the AI avatar will appear. And if they are the first-time visitor to the course, then AI will first onboard the students. And during this process, it will ask like initial question about the courses to gauge the initial knowledge state of the student. And apart from that, it will also ask some behavioral questions like what are their preferred learning times, or what they are targeting in terms of grades. And then by combining all these data, it will create a personalized learning path for the student, which can be used in the subsequent visits. Once onboarding is done, then we have the active learning stage, where we have a different features for our students. So for example, if a student is going through its coursebook and they have some doubts, then instantly it can ask the AI and clarify its doubt in a conversational manner, and answers will be like instant. Another feature here was that if a student, if he or she wants to understand some concepts and they want to do a deep dive, then they can start this feature where AI will first explain the concept in deep to the student. Then they can have maybe a subsequent question and answer session to clarify any further doubts. Once that is done, then AI will quiz again the students on this particular concept to make sure that whatever it has taught, it has been retained by the student. And finally, once the student feels ready enough to give exams for the subject, it can move to the last stage of where the AI can simulate the exam environment, and it can quiz student on the examination-like questions and give them instant feedback in terms of how they answered and what could be their expected grades. And if the student feels good enough about their performance, then they can just go on and do the actual exams with the human teacher. Yeah, so that's how a learning journey looked like there. Next slide, please. Now let's see how the professors they received this assistant. So as with change at any big organizations, there were initially some resistance and some concerns regarding the accuracy and the control of this assistant. but then we have a lot of one-on-one sessions with our professors. We try to explain them the end-to-end process and how it will help the students. Another message that we conveyed was that we make sure to tell our professors that this is just another learning aid for our students, but it's not going to replace any human in the process. So yeah, so once this onboarding was done, in general, the professors were very receptive of this, and they even encouraged the students to use it. And in terms of quality control with AI, so we always make sure that we have humans in the loop. And what I meant with this is that whatever doubt a student asked to this AI assistant, we make sure that most asked doubt was always being certified by the professors in terms of what the AI is generating, and it's not hallucinating, or if it's not just giving any random information. Also, we can monitor all the conversations that AI is doing with the students on our tools. And if we find anything objectionable, we can just quickly pause it and take the corrective measures. And finally, another important one was that all the content that AI models were taking into account to generate the responses, it was coming from our the database of the university. It is to make sure that AI or the LLMs can't just randomly fetch something from the internet and just present it to the students. So yeah, we have these measures in check. And if we move to the next slide, then we can see how the students receive this tool. So all in all, they really like this tool. They really like that it gives them a learning path which they can just follow and get their expected grades. They can clarify their doubts 24/7 from anywhere in the world. Yeah, and in general, they felt more confident with their preparations. With some students, they did try to spam it a lot, but then yeah, you can always monitor it and take corrective measures. And in terms of impact, move to the next slide, please. Yes. Yeah, so through our data, we can clearly see that the students who were using this tool, they have a much higher knowledge retention, and their learning curve was much higher. Also, the students who were using it, they were much earlier prepared for the exams in comparison with their peers who were not using it at all. And then there was also a study done at the university, and the finding was that on average, students who were using this tool have 27% reduction in their study time in comparison with the students who were not using this tool at all within the first 3 months of their usage. Yeah, I've linked this study in the source. You can go more deep into it if you like to it. Yeah, so that was the quick overview of how we leveraged AI at this university. I will conclude with that from our experiences, we can tell that having AI in education, it does have some risks, but if we apply it in a curated manner, it's beneficial both for the students and for the professors at the same time. And yeah, and finally, there's no doubt that this AI experience cannot replace the in-classroom learning experience, which will be crucial, at least for a while, I can see. Yeah, with that, yeah, I'll end my presentation and looking forward to your question and handing over back to Kata.
Thank you, Samarth. Yes, now it's time for your questions or our questions, I would also say. So we've gathered some questions beforehand through the form, but I would like to ask you now in the room, let's say, do you have anything that pops into your mind that you would like to ask in this moment, right after hearing what our panelists had to say about the facts? Is anybody? Okay, Alexandra, go ahead.
Yes, hi everyone. Thank you to all the presenters for the very interesting case studies and data behind it. It's fascinating to see that things are already changing and impacting our kids in general. And thinking of especially of the last three presentations of case studies from Marta, Laura, and Samarth, it seems like the usage of AI as a supportive tool in education seems to work much better at this point for adults, as Samarth's example. And I'm wondering if it's because as adults, we usually have been trained into critical thinking, we learn much logical thinking, so things that are very useful for getting the basics of prompting and of AI usage. So based on this, my question is to Laura and Marta, rather. First of all, what changes in the school curriculum do you see needed to help our kids learn these much earlier than our generations might have done it? And do you believe these changes are already in place, or in movement, or it's maybe a delay from the government and authorities to actually do that? And it's more, I think Marta was saying that teachers being pushed to use whatever, and not this maybe long-term view. So in a short, because it was a long question, so do you see any changes that need to be done to the curriculum in terms of building this critical thinking, logical thinking skills much earlier? And do you believe there are already things put into play to actually make that happen?
I don't know, am I going first? Maybe, well, what I actually saw is that in our schools, nothing is actually changing as far as curriculum is concerned. We as teachers are asked maybe to take these training courses just to find new ways. But the idea is that in the end, even if we consider maybe the final exam, nothing is changing. So we on our own, we are trying to support the development maybe of critical thinking, because we understand that knowledge is not, I mean, knowledge is important, but it's not the main focus of our job, basically. So we are trying to maybe to change the approach we have, but it's normally on voluntary basis. Because what I see, at least in my school, but I think it's almost everywhere, there's a lot of resistance from teachers in engaging in these new teaching methods. And the point is that, yes, I was really surprised too when I saw the numbers, because probably as adults, we are learning because we want to, because we understand that it is important for our future and for our personality and so on. But at this very young age, it's really difficult to make them understand that it's for their own sake that we're doing that. So that's why it's really hard for us to work with AI now, at least. I don't know if I've answered your question properly, actually.
Yes, very, very clear.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question, and thank you, Marta, for the answer. I have a note from the chat, so just gonna read it. Even if the curriculum changes, the brain isn't fully developed, even in university-level students. Cognitive development has an impact on critical thinking, planning, and understanding possible consequences of choices and actions. So school programs are not necessarily enough. So Marta, would you care to keep commenting on this?
Yes, no, I know that, but I don't know, there's also something else probably going on during the teenage phase. Probably also the fact that they're really concerned about their future, their choices. So I know that, of course, even during university, there are issues concerning the development of also cognitive development. But there are other themes that I think that impact on the process of learning when the students are really, really young. So what I meant is that probably we should, I don't know, we are always as teachers concerned on the amount of things we want to teach our students, whereas probably we should be more concerned on how they could receive that and use them in the future. So more than knowledge, yes, probably critical thinking. That's what we try to do, but quite often we don't have the means to get to this point.
So I understand that you are saying that, okay, school programs are definitely not enough. We need to go farther and beyond. We need to go on to the critical thinking part. And as far as you said, it seems that the government institutions are not really helpful at this time, or there are not enough programs to help teachers in understanding the new technology that before teaching to the students. For me, this at least is a quick summary of what I've understood, and I would like to also keep receiving if you have other comments on the chat, or otherwise back to you, Kata.
Yes, we had actually those questions before in the pipeline. So how do you teach critical thinking in this new day and age when we, in a way, outsourced the thinking itself? You know, so many researchers say, like, we actually kind of automate that what should never be automated, the thinking. So you partly already touched upon it, but maybe you have also some additional insights about like how teaching of critical thinking has changed or will change, in your opinion, with the development of AI. Laura, maybe.
Sorry. Something that we realize is that when you present technology to students and you don't give any guidance, they will use it how they replicate in their daily life. For example, a problem that we're facing now is that the amount of attention that students have right now is the same that they have for every like reel or TikTok video that they see online. So if you go beyond that, you will find them like they're not able to focus and engage the same way that we grown-ups do. And it's not because they're not able, it's because they're facing technology in a different way that we did. We had technology after we have a connective like develop in a different way. So what happens is like we were used to like present different like books and read different books and make a summary of the info that we read in the book to present a project in school, for example, or an essay or something like that. Students right now, they only have to go to one click. And the thing is like, they don't even know how to read properly because they have the info already there. So they don't go beyond that. They don't have that ability of like question the things they're reading or going to the source because everything is like already pre-made for them. So obviously it has a big impact on their critical thinking because even it will sound harsh, but they're not thinking critically. They're just assuming that everything that is present to them is the absolutely true. So let's say this, you go and you search on a website, you will see the first page or the first 3 pages. But if a famous author has something meaningful and is on the 4th page, you won't look it because you were only searching the first ones. So the thing is like their attention, the ability to write, the ability to respond is dictated on how the prompts on AI are made right now. And the main focus is like if we don't take the opportunity on the classroom to teach them to think differently, they will assume that thinking the way AI is thinking is the only way that is to think. So it's our job as the teachers to tell them other ways to see the world. Because otherwise they won't learn it because they don't have the input from outside. They only have the input that they are able to click.
Thank you, Laura. Yes, there's this great question about the parents. That was exactly the thing that I was also going to say. So in the chat, we have this remark. What about parents? Do they openly show any interest in learning anything about AI? I can see you're shaking your heads already. Or do they consider this as a responsibility exclusive to the school? Teachers alone can only go so far if there's no guidance at home. Absolutely. That was also one of the questions that we were hearing, like how to teach your kids value of the effort as a parent, and how to not be dismissed by your kids, because I can imagine not only the teachers will struggle with this kind of dismissive attitude, and in this fast pace, I don't know, of communication from everywhere, but also, yeah, how can parents approach that? Do you see some good examples in your area of work, or do you have any advice for parents?
Okay, I will go first, but I'm sure that Marta has something important to say as well. Like, the problem that we are facing is that because a school is introducing the virtual environments, parents, we have like two versions. The parents that is not engaging, that is something that belongs to school, and I'm here to help you how to enter the computer and to see what are you doing. And we have the parents that is challenging everything. That is good. We want those parents, but at the end of the day, how we teachers are not fully prepared for what we are facing, neither the parents. So we have like these two parents, like the one that says that's not my problem, like that's a school problem. If we have the parent that is not able to understand the impact that AI has, because they don't know themselves. They're be using in the work environment the same way that some schools are saying that we have to use it. Like, please, it's new. We have to introduce this to our classrooms. We want to be like a school that is going forward, so you have to introduce it. And in the same level, we have the parents that are fighting against, but they don't have the tools. They don't even have the ability to question, because themselves, they are not prepared to do that.
Yes, I would also add the fact that maybe somehow, especially when we talk about replacing teachers, friends, psychologists, as I said before, parents don't see AI as a threat, as a potential threat. So they are not prepared, as Lara was saying, to face reality, probably because they don't properly understand. I mean, their children understand technology better than they do. And they are not willing to maybe also to ask questions. They try, I think, to protect their children. And so also the fact that maybe they can study according to, of course, to a very simplified explanation, to study less and to gain more knowledge according as far as their children say that, maybe it's also seen as positive, actually. And we as teachers are always blamed when something goes wrong. So it's easier maybe to relate to something that is considered objective more than we are in their minds. I mean, so I've never seen a single parent who actually asked me or anyone something on AI.
I do have a question. Thanks for this, first of all, and I have a quick question for both of you, but even for any of us in this conversation. And how much do you think is the percentage, the effort that or the responsibility of parents, and how much of teachers? Because in the end, teachers can only stay so long with the students while they live with their parents for a good part of their life. So who is the man responsible for real?
I mean, I see my students basically just 3-4 hours a week. So of course the impact I have on their daily life is minimum, basically. And of course, once they get home, they are on their own. And sometimes they also don't have any kinds of rules or for their screen time, for example, while they're studying. So it's really, I mean, it's easy to blame us because we are considered, biased, probably. But of course, there's not much that we can do. I mean, we can do a lot, actually. We can study, we can revise, we can find new ways to teach and to make our lessons more entertaining. But actually, the way they use technology, it's not related to our job.
I can imagine that actually there should be some systemic approach to prepare parents for parenting the age of AI. And I can totally imagine that schools would be absolutely overwhelmed if they got yet another thing, not only teaching pupils, students, but also teaching parents. I think, I guess I'm seeing we kind of agree that that would be the way. Like, we also need education for the parents, not to mention that since ages we should have education on how to raise kids in general. But I think, in the age of AI, it starts to be even more and more crucial. I wanted to add two more, like one closing kind of little question or maybe conclusion, and one question that I think we can't answer at this point, but it's a good one for this moment. So there was a question, how to handle the usage of AI in early education from 1 to 7 years old when humans are in their most vulnerable stage of development. I think Dario had a strong opinion on that one, as far as I remember. Go ahead, Dario.
I mean, in the end, it's it seems kind of obvious that at that age, they shouldn't stay in front of an AI. A kid 1 to 6, they shouldn't be on social media. They should not be on AI. And I've seen that in some places in the world, like I think in Australia, if I remember well, they are banning social media until 16, and I think they're doing something very good for their kids. In China as well, there are lots of limitations for the exposure to social media, to video games for underage kids, and especially when they are 1 to 6 is extremely more important. I've read so many horrible things of AI psychosis or AI in facilitated suicides or things like these, and these are happening to teenagers and to adults. I can't even imagine what can happen to kids 1 to 6. So I'm gonna close it here to not being too dramatic, and also because we have another comment from the chat that maybe you want to read, Kata?
Yes, we have one. We have now two even. So the first one, or three. So number one is like, how would you suggest to remove AI at least temporarily from the learning, so that you can ensure that they are actually learning and not just using AI as a substitute? So kind of limiting AI usage. And the second point was, you mentioned it takes time and you have to double check AI, and there are ethical concerns. But do you think AI could help you guide a better view of students' learning progress? So this is, I will stay with this one because we have another one, another question or so. So maybe these two first. Who would like to answer that one? So can we limit in a way? Is there like a good way to kind of limit or remove AI from learning, like to just have maybe some AI integration and some not? And can AI kind of help with having an overview on students' learning progress? So like more like measurement of the progress, not only not checking the homework, but kind of keeping the data, sort of processing the data, I'm guessing.
Yes, I think I can answer that because I think that the question on the ethical concerns was something that was related to something I said before. Well, actually, limiting, I think removing, I don't think removing is useful, actually, removing AI. I would say limiting maybe like to evaluate somehow as a self-check once they have completed the assessment, basically. So once they have completed the task, maybe an essay, they could I don't know, analyze something as other perspectives, or something that they could have explained better, and so on. So I wouldn't completely remove AI from learning. And as for the second one, yes, from the statistics point of view, I think it would be really, really useful. But, and this is my bad, I don't really know how to use AI tools to do that. Because since I have a lot of bureaucracy to do for school, I don't have enough time to think about evaluation systems and methods that I could power thanks to AI, basically. So I think, yes, it could be really, really useful.
I'm gonna add something on this because of my experience that we worked at applying this learning companion at higher education, so at higher education at university. So the first thing is that I agree that removing is too much, especially because outside of the school anyway, they're going to use AI as much as they want. And when they're still studying, they're going to use it if they're not taught how to use it responsibly. And if they are not taught how to use it properly, they're going to use it anyway in the wrong way out of the school. So I think it's important to teach them how to use it properly. So to foster critical thinking instead of using it to substitute thinking. One thing that I usually say is think first, AI later. So when I have to write something, when I have to study something, first of all you study, first of all you write, and then you can use AI to review or to empower it or to review it. First point. Second point, I would say that this absolutely is not the role of the teacher. So we don't have to expect the teacher to use AI for understanding student progress, and not even a simple chatbot or LLM. These are more complex models, more complex systems that can be achieved by a big organization. And these are going to happen much more in the future. And the AIs are really good at understanding your level of preparation. Still, they are imperfect and they can hallucinate and so on, but overall they can already achieve great results and at estimating what you know, what you don't know, at finding your possible gaps and helping you learn what you're missing and the next best exercise, the next best lesson. So for this, they're going to be very good, but not on the teacher. They're going to be on big organizations. And that's my thing.
Thank you. Thanks, Dario, for this clarification. Yes, and we have a remark as we are, I think, approaching slowly the end of our session. So there's a remark that the best teachers often make an impact through inspiration and personal connection, not through teaching the daily lesson. If teachers become just supporters on their side, students may also lose the only educated role models they have in their life. And yes, I also heard that in a way from Marta's experience that you know your students, like you really said it, like you are not only evaluating, you cannot just put the homework through LLM and say, okay, is that good or bad? No, you know the student, you know what the student is going through, perhaps also in their private life. Or maybe what limitations or maybe some disadvantages that this person may have. So I think there's also a lot of those other aspects like, neurodiversity or accessibility or, privilege even, that is, I think, being a big factor in data literacy and in digital literacy, I think, nowadays. And it's going to be even more and more visible in the future of education at schools and universities. And yes, I personally also think that great teacher, sometimes it doesn't have to be the lead teacher or the main teacher. Sometimes just a great teacher can really inspire. And I think we should never lose that spirit in the educational context. Yes, we are going to finish our session slowly. I'm really, really happy about the conversation now that we had some great questions. But I wanted to finish with one last thing, apart from before we say about connecting. So to each of you, Laura, Marta, Samarth, and Dario, in your opinion, what are the 3 most important conditions for making good use of AI in the classroom? Because in the end, we ask that question like just you can put hashtag, one word. But like we asked that question: does AI have a place in the classroom? So if we can say it, we kind of see that it does have a place in the classroom. So what are, in your view, like the 3 most important conditions for making the good use of AI?
All right, let me try. Difficult to summarize conditions in one hashtag, but I'm gonna try. So for sure, the first thing that comes to my mind is to be safe and responsible. First thing ever. Second thing is to empower instead of substitute. And I don't have a third.
That's great.
I can add third. Hashtag learning buddy.
Like it.
Very nice.
I would say that AI, yes, has definitely a place in the classroom with maybe enough time, enough preparation, and enough maturity, probably.
Awesome. Yes.
As you guys say, I will say that definitely has a space. I think it's a necessary space that we need to have, but we need to arrive to that space with preparation, because if we as a teachers don't create a safe environment, it's just a misuse tool. But at the end of the day, the teacher has the knowledge, has the human part, like Marta says, like she knows, like I'm sure that when she sees a student, she knows is he having a bad day, if he's learning, if she needs to change the phrase, and that's something that AI can never replace.
Great. Thank you so much for your points. And yes, I wanted just to invite you all to connect with us and join our future event to connect with Human Future Hub. We have a LinkedIn group. There you see the QR code. We also have meetups. We organize meetups. They are always on Meetup and on Luma now. We kind of reflect those two platforms. And we will be mixing like online and offline. I can a little bit advertise the upcoming session will be like an introduction to coaching with one of our expert coaches in the community that is focused on technologies and on taking a step back. And then we will have also a session about sustainability. We are collaborating now with the sustainability NGO, and we are really, really excited about that one. So we kind of connect a topic that is not in our center, but it's in their center of expertise. And we're really happy to bring also this technological thoughts about in the sustainability context. And yes, and we will talk about recruiting and again, future of work. So stay tuned because there will be so many interesting sessions upcoming in the next weeks. And yes, we are really eager to start a Substack. The page is already there, so you can absolutely subscribe, follow, and be patient. We are working on content. We will also have guest articles and expert views there. And sessions like that, this one will be also available there to see. To watch again, and even for people who can't join themselves live. All right, and don't forget our Instagram at Human Future Hub. Please follow us. We are so small yet, but we really need your support and spread the good word. So thank you, everyone. Let's go to the next slide. The next slide is thank you. Yes, thanks for joining.
Very much.
It was very, very nice. It was wonderful hosting you, Laura, Marta, and Samarth. Thank you very much. Thanks, Dario, for co-hosting, and everyone who joined the call. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for joining. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.